everyone. Thanks for being a part of the show. My name is John. I am in right by the Smoky Mountains. So in a town called Maryville, Tennessee. This is where Kavanaugh Media Now is located at. Though, truth be told, we have people that are a part of this team that are in other countries all around the world, which is actually really nice because there are times when I can go to bed and they can jump right on a project or keep working right on it. I'll wake up the next morning and what do you know, work's done. I love it. And that's part of the world that we live in. The pandemic hit. Everybody went to Zoom or Microsoft Teams or to wherever else, and we have all been trying to figure this thing out and what the world looks like. Do we have to always meet in person? Can we continue to use Zoom calls? I'm starting to travel a little bit more, but I will tell you the truth. I really don't miss being gone and being in perpetual jet lag. And so I'm thankful to use this technology today to be able to hopefully help you and your Christian media marketing. Now this show, if this is your first time watching or if you're watching the recorded version on our Kavanaugh Media website, our heart goes out to these small teams and small organizations and people that you don't have huge budgets, but you want to leverage technology and media to be able to reach out to people. If that's you, I hope that this training that our company, Kavanaugh Media, can benefit you in what you are doing. If you're watching this show and you're watching it live right now, if you want to give us a little thumbs up or some sort of reaction, if you want to comment, whatever you want to do, if you want to do that, we'll see that. We appreciate that a lot, okay? Now, to give you an idea of where we're going today, there's a few questions I want to answer. Each week we get emails from people just going, hey, what about this or what about that? And for me, this is a way for us to pay back, to be open-handed and say, hey, here's some answers or things that we're seeing or to let you know about stuff. So each week we try to answer a few of those questions and then we dive in, do a little bit of a live training in as much as possible. Sometimes it's a little bit recorded because of security stuff, but to do a live training about something in relation to Christian media marketing, using marketing types of technology, media, and skills to find seekers, find people that the Holy Spirit is working in their lives. I'm convinced now at this point, after running ads in 70 plus different countries, we're working with over 18 different groups and organizations, that this works. But it's not the end. It's the beginning part. If you think of it as a process from a start point to an end point, well, the end point for us, at least spiritually, is that people are coming to faith in Christ and they're able to share their faith, that they are a disciple who can make disciples, that people are really growing in their relationship. And so while it's exciting to see views and what we're going to look at today with Google Analytics, with a lot of the data tells us stories, but it's not the complete story. The story's not done yet until other people, and honestly, until eternity, until we see the results of some of the stuff that we are doing. So thanks for joining us today. If you have questions as we go through it, make sure you put that in the comments. We'll try to address those even live if we can. If you've got a question, something pressing that you would like for me to address today, put that in the comments and we'll try to address them, okay? The goal of this is to help you, and that's what we desire. Now, let's jump into some questions that I've received this week and see if we can help answer some of those. The very first question is actually in relation to the announcement that we made, and then I also put out on our podcast, the Christian Media Marketing Podcast, about an ad grant that we received. We received $50,000 of ad grant money to go to teams who are trying to reach into the 1040 window, to reach unreached people groups in that area. Now, if you're reaching out to those groups, and maybe you are a diaspora group, maybe you're in a major metropolitan city in Europe or US or whatever, I'm not saying no, that can't happen, because we have already reached out and there are just some great people there at Jesus Film helping us be able to do this, and they have the same desire that you and I have, which is let's try to get the good news to as many people as possible while it's still good news to them. And so if you're working trying to reach unreached people groups, a 1040 window broadly of where it's at, then we have until we run out of funds here, $1,200 per team. So that's about 3 months worth of ads. And how that would work is all the Jesus Film asks is to use media and content from their library, which is something that we do anyway. They have over 1,900 different languages. And so there are different types of campaigns that we as Kavanaugh Media have created. We'd be glad to share and use those for you. You just have to make sure that you're going to follow up on every person, on their comments for people that are seeking. And then we'd love to hear stories of how God used those ads and that outreach that you're doing, and share that data and stories back with us. The question then came to us, do we need to pay Kavanaugh Media to get the ad grant? No. All right, now this is a little bit of a risk. I get it, okay, on our part, because we've had teams already say, hey, we want to do this, but they don't have the funds, or they're not going to pay us as an ad agency. So we're a business's mission. We just work with Christian mission orgs and churches, but if we don't get paid, well, it's kind of hard to pay people's salaries and stuff. But I just believe God provides. I really do believe that. And so if you come to us and you say, we would love to use this ad grant money, but we don't have any money to pay you all to run the ads, then our answer is going to be, we'll still help you. Okay? So it's not really a negotiation. It's out there. It's on the internet. So it must be true, right? So all of this it's recorded. We desire to do as much as we can to help as many as we can. Okay, to reach as many as the Spirit is reaching out to. And so this grant from Jesus Film is a way to allow you to maybe have more money to spend for ads, or to be able to do this. No, you do not have to hire us to be able to do that. There is some work on our end to be able to partner with you and to get access and stuff, okay? But if you are a mission team working to try to reach unreached people group, and you are going to follow up with people and meet with them face to face, then we want to try to help you, and we'll do whatever we can to do that. So how do you do that? You don't have to pay. Now, obviously, we're looking for clients. In fact, I think this is the truth. I think we're really good at what we do. I'm not saying we ever have all the answers. I'm not saying we're the best. I'm not saying just copy and cut and paste or whatever. But at a certain point, when you've done this tens of thousands of times, you start to figure some things out, and you start to see global trends. And I also know that the stuff that excites me and our team is not the things that many of you went to the field to do. You went there to learn a language and to talk to people about Jesus. I get that. And so if you need somebody to do all that technical and to just run the ads, and then you follow up on those leads, the spiritual seekers, that's perfect. That's what we want to do. But if funds is an issue, then don't let that stop you from achieving this mission. That's what this grant is for, and we'll donate or do whatever we can to help. So how do you get started? Is go to KavanaughMedia.com/let's go. Right? And there's just a little form right on there. You'll fill it out, and then Amy will send you an email that will set up a time to do a Zoom call, depending on where you're at, with somebody on our team, to just talk through, okay, what does this look like, and how do you partner with us? How do you grant us access to do that? All right, so if that's something that you're looking for, then please let us know, because that's my desire. I want 1 out of 7 or more people in the world to see something about Jesus here in this next year to 2 years. And so now is the time. Things are changing. We may not have these same tools a year from now, 2 years from now. And so whatever we can do to push forward, I say, let's go. All right. And so if that's something that you're interested in, to answer the question, no, you don't have to hire us. We'll do as much as we can, but that grant money is there until it runs out. All right. And so go to KavanaughMedia.com/let's go. And if this interests you, if you are wanting to be a part of that, then great, let us know, okay? Next question that I received. iOS 14.5 is now here. Is it the end of the world as we know it? I would love to be playing some, REM music right now. It's the end of the world as we know it, that song. But it's not. It's not the end of the world as we know it. The end of the world will be when Jesus comes back. When it comes to marketing, when it comes to some of these tools, if you're unfamiliar with it, iOS 14.5, I already updated my phone this morning, and on it, I already got a notification saying, can you or do you want to allow ESPN to track you outside of their app? And I hit yes. So call me a sucker, I don't know, but I know that this is going to have an impact. Facebook already saw it was coming. They and Apple are fighting. Facebook has already changed the Pixel. So it's not just an Apple issue. At this point, the Pixel itself and the algorithms are changing. So whether it is Android or Apple iOS, the results are going to begin to change. And so some of this we're already seeing. Now we'll just see really what the impact of that. This is this whole issue that comes into with your Pixel. You're seeing these notifications. If you have a business account, hey, the Pixel change is coming. You need to verify your domain. You can only pick 8 events. There's some really technical stuff. I was on a call this morning with Alan on my team, and he was like, this isn't always just an easy thing. And I get it. I agree with him. It's not. And so we've got some trainings that are out there. There's some articles. Google it. Facebook is trying their best to help people to be able to do that. But there's some plugins on WordPress that you can use to set the pixel up on your site. There's even some of them that you can even then do the domain verification. So there's some cool things that are out there. But yeah, it's here. All right. And there's a part of me, a big part of me, that really values what Apple's trying to do on this privacy issue of it. So the days of the Wild West, the days of just go start a page, use somebody else's identity, do these things, that's gone. That's all gone. The days of being able to super micro target down on some of the Pixel stuff, that's probably gone too. And, I'll let others decide if that's good or bad, but it's still there. We can still run ads. It's still going to have us have the ability to get that content out there in front of people. It just means the strategy is going to change somewhat. And I love it. I'm always thinking, what's different? What can we change? What's some strategy stuff? And so we'll do some trainings. I know I will be talking about this on our podcast as well, of some different types of strategy part. But one quick one for you is if you're doing retargeting, and you tend to have, if somebody's been in one page and they've done this and then they've done that, and then you run an ad just to that group, that may not work as well. And so you may have to run your ads to higher up on your funnel as you're reaching out. Okay, now if you're just a church or somebody in your area, it's not going to have a drastic impact. Okay, it probably won't. If you're targeting larger areas, countries, certain things, or if the retargeting is a part of your strategy, you may have to change on some of that. All right, so it is not the end of the world. Okay, it's just not, but it's changing. I'm pretty sure people at Facebook have been stressing about it. So one more question. And this kind of relates a little bit to this one, but somebody asked this question: what is attribution and attribution models? What is attribution and attribution models? Well, attribution is the idea of attributing something. So we want to know, I ran an ad. Can I attribute that somebody did something as a result of that ad? Or they visited my church website and then they downloaded a Bible, or they came by, or they scheduled a counseling session, or they've reached out on social media asking to know about Jesus. How can we attribute what we have done to the results that we're wanting to see? And so an attribution model is an attempt to be able to say, in a certain amount of time, or after they've clicked, or after they've viewed, if they do something, we will attribute it back to that. And there's different parts to it. There's first, there's last touch type of attribution, and there's timing elements that come into this. Facebook, on their world, just changed the attribution model. So if you jump into your ads manager and you notice, you'll see now where it says 7-day, which is the default. It used to be 28-day. And it really depends upon what it is that how long you're running the ad and what you're asking people to do. All right. So what the first result you'll see is that with the 7-day, your results may be just smaller. So the volume, the numbers it's recording are smaller. It may show less events, less conversions, not accepting Jesus, just like they did something, all right? Sent a message or downloaded a Bible or something like that. All right, so the numbers may look smaller. The cost per activity may seem like it's a little bit higher. It really just depends. But this whole attribution and attribution model is something that is not perfect. So let me give you an example. If there was something that I really liked, like there's a restaurant, in the town of Maryville that I live, and I really like it. And so I am talking to my friend Jeff, and he's like, hey, you know any place where you can get some really good Pakistani food? And I go, yeah, I do. Oh, you need to check this restaurant out. Like, this is really, really good. And I give him the name and the address, and he's like, cool, thanks, John, but he doesn't go. And then he's out, and it's 2 weeks later, and he sees a billboard for that place, and he thinks, yeah, John told me about the place. I think I'm going to go check that out. And then he goes, all right, the last touch attribution was the billboard. That's the thing that spurred him to go. First touch was me, my recommendation to him. And so it's a balancing act. It's hard, okay? It's not an exact science. And so will people see your Facebook or your Google ads or Instagram ads and maybe not click on them right away? You bet. But it doesn't mean that there wasn't an impact there. It's just hard to measure that impact sometimes. It's inexact. But this is one of the reasons why I like digital advertising so much, especially more than things like a newspaper or whatever, or even flyers or handouts. If you've ever been to a conference and then people are giving out little flyers and then you look how many flyers are in the trash, it's hard to measure the effect of those, okay? And so with digital, they've clicked, they've gone through, they've made it to your website. Right? So that is a little bit about what attribution is, and there are different attribution models out there. Where this comes into play is what we're going to dive into now, which is some training, some specific training looking at Google Analytics. All right? And you might think, well, Google Analytics, that's not marketing. Facebook ads, Google ads, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, those are the ads. That's marketing. Yeah, but how do you know what's happening once somebody clicks on your ad? That's where having something on your website, that's where Google Analytics, to me, it's a really important part of your overall toolbox and strategy. It lets you know what's happening when somebody comes to your evangelistic site or your church site to really get a better idea about, are you succeeding at what you're wanting to do? A lot of people spend a lot of money and time on a website only to find out that people aren't using it, or they're not going to it, or there's a certain page that everybody's leaving from, and maybe if we would just change the title, or maybe make a little bit less text, or who knows what, maybe the videos aren't loading fast, so there's a speed issue that comes into it. These are all really important parts to it. The challenge is, what I want to show you today, we've looked at terms last week, is that there's two different flavors, I don't know the right word to use here, but two different versions of Google Analytics right now. There is the universal Facebook one, and you'll hear me, Universal Analytics, being described, from me at least, as GA or Google Analytics 3. And then there's a new version of Google Analytics, which is Google Analytics 4. So I'm ex-military. We abbreviate everything. I abbreviate my name. All right, my full name is Jonathan. I just go by John or JR or whatever. Okay, so I abbreviate all the time, and so you'll hear me even today. It's GA3, GA4. GA3 is the universal. That's what's been there for quite a while since Google bought the company that we now know as Google Analytics. GA4 is new. It's only been out for a few months. When you go to sign up to analytics.google.com for this free service, it's going to steer you towards GA4. If you click, there's a place where you can click under advanced options to get the universal, the older style. And just as we're getting started on it, it's okay if you have both. I'm actually running both versions on my website right now, and I'm able to compare them to see, because there's some functionality in Google Analytics 4 that's not there in GA3, and there's some within Google Analytics 3 that's not in the new version, and I'm going to show you that. So in today's training, I'm going to bring both of them up real time, same set of data, and show you some of those differences. So both this week and next week, we're going to do a deep dive into it. Not super, super deep, but enough to give you some idea about what things are. And then next week, we're also going to show you Google Data Studio. So how you can take some of this information and put it in such a way that creates dashboards or ways for you to really visualize the story that this data is sharing. Now, let's jump into it. Before I show you the screens, there's a couple things I want to just describe to you that's different. In Universal GA3, there's things called hit types. And a hit is when somebody goes to your page. That's a page hit. Or they click on something. That's an event hit. Or they buy something or do something like e-commerce. Or there's a social interaction. All of those are considered a hit. GA4, the newest version of Google Analytics, is all about events. And so everything is event-based. And the principle is that any type of interaction should be able to be captured as an event. So if you've used Google Analytics for a while and you go ahead and install GA4, you're going to see that a lot of those hits that you used to have are now called events. And so really the biggest thing I want to say to you, the difference of these, if you've used analytics at all, and if you haven't, you're going to see where that plays out here in a minute, is that events are a fundamental data model difference. How events are used is the biggest difference between GA3 and the new GA4. So for example, with an event in the older Google Analytics, GA3, you used to have what was called a category and an action and a label, and it's confusing. And you would set these things up to be able to say the category was a video, the action was play, the label was the video. There's all sorts of stuff that you would have to do. GA4, you don't have to do that. So when they come to your website, let's say, for a hit event, a page view, in Google Analytics 4, all right, that GA3, it would be just a page view. In Google Analytics 4 now, this is just considered an event called a page view. So there's no notion of category, action, labels, a lot of this really hard stuff. In fact, one of the tools that we have used a lot, and Alan's helped several teams with from our Kavanaugh Media team, is setting up Google Tag Manager. It's still really cool. It still works. It's great. It's a great tool. You install it on your website once, and then you don't have to keep going into your website to make some of this changes. And so if you use a tool like Hotjar or Crazy Egg or your Facebook Pixel or a lot of stuff, you can do all that within Google Tag Manager, and you don't have to actually change the code on your site. That's great if you're not the programmer on your site. But so it's still there, and you can go to our Kavanaugh Media, and there's a whole course on Google Tag Manager. But in Google Analytics 4, you don't have to. It is a completely different model that automatically collects a lot of these events that we used to have to label. So there's at least 4 different types, all right? And then we're going to jump right into the video. Automatically collected events. So if you do Google Analytics 4, there are some events that as soon as you install it, they just show up. And then there's a place where in your admin area, in the settings, where you can hit an enhanced measurement. And this is where some of these things like video plays, things like that, these are extra events that are now going to automatically fire on your page. And so those are all, I love it. Okay, I'm just going to tell you right now, I think this is really cool. And then there's some others. There is some custom events, and then there's some specific recommended events if you were doing certain types of businesses. I doubt any of you use those. You may use custom events, but I want to encourage you to wait as you get started with GA4 to see the built-in and the enhanced events that are built in to make sure that they're working for you before you do anything else. All right, a couple other things just real fast. Page views, sessions, some of those things are going to be labeled differently. It's going to look a little bit different in GA4 than it does in GA3. That's okay. Just know that sometimes some of these things are going to be a little bit different. It's going to register different. I think it'll make sense to you though before you get started. All right, so let's dive into it. I'm going to be doing some live video training. I'm going to use Google's own data for this one. I do not want to share the Google Analytics data from any of the ministries and teams or churches that I work with. I just didn't want to have to mess with trying to blur it out. So I just want to show you the functionality of it. And it's going to work great. So with Google Analytics, they provide a bunch of demo data, which is actually real data from their stores that they do, their web stores. All right. But if you're just getting started, all right, so this is the challenge for me today with this live training. If you've been using analytics, you probably already have the UA version. You may not have Google Analytics 4. If you're just getting started, you're probably going to get the Google Analytics 4 set up. So I kind of need to be able to show you a little bit of both as we're getting going. With Google Analytics, when you get going into it, you will click to analytics.google.com, use a Google thing to sign up for it, and then you can jump right into it. One of the things that you're going to need to do, and I'm going to jump to this training video here, this is my screen right now. As you dive into it, when you click down to the bottom left, way down here below this picture that you're seeing of me in my red shirt right here, there's a little gear. If you click on that, that brings up your settings for your site. And this is where you can create a property, and you'll notice that if you already have Google Analytics, it will give you a GA4 setup assistant. All right, and so that's where you can really get in there and start setting up Google Analytics 4. If you're doing GA3 still, or you have your properties, this is how you'll tell the difference. This little UA code right there. All right, so that code is Google Analytics 3, and it's installed on my website. All right, and so that's that basic part to that. If you're doing GA4, it's going to create a property ID. That's this part right here. And so those two things are different. So if your site has just a number, then you're using GA4. All right. If you have the UA, then you're using the older Google Analytics 3. All right. So jump in there, look at those, and you'll see that even there, that there's some differences. Now, let's jump right over here, and this is what the basic home page in Google Analytics 3 looks like. Okay, and in this one right here, when you're in home, here's this UA. Once again, we're using the Google Merchandise Store. It shows us some different metrics. So this home page is the one you're going to probably spend the most time on. It's going to show you, here's how many people have been to the website in the last 30 days. 61,000. It's saying that there's a slight increase. Now, we're not going to worry about probably revenue for any ministry sites, but if you do have something like that set up, or if you're a nonprofit and you're trying to raise support and finances, that can show up there. All right. Conversion rate relates to your goals, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. And then this is how many sessions. In GA3, which is this screen, a session is about a 30-minute time period. It comes into it. What I also love is this is showing me how many people in real time are on the website right now. It gets really fun when I'm running ads all around the world and I can bring up multiple screens and see all these different people who are on an evangelistic website, and just to start to pray and to say, you know, there's 70 people right now who are watching a video about Jesus. God, work through that video. Do something powerful there. And so I love using that, and I'll show you that in just a second, even more detail. You can change this. So if I just wanted to do yesterday, this is how many people went to the website yesterday. And it looks like there it is, updating, 2.8. So 2.8K went to the website yesterday. All right. So you can change those down there, and you can also click and it will show you a more detailed view that relates to over here. So this is audience here. If you click here, it takes you to this overview button. All right. So this is kind of taking all of these things that you're going to see over here on the left, and it's bringing them into one page. So we're seeing here, we can see how many users, we can see the source and the medium, we can see what pages are referring, we can see by what country are people coming from, we can see what time of day people are coming to our site, we can see down here what pages are more people coming to, we can see is our website traffic going up or down. We can see whether or not the majority of people are using a desktop or a mobile or a tablet. And once again, we can change the time frames on this. We can see how many continue to come back to our site. We can see it as well with goals that we set up. Maybe it's we want them to be on the site for 5 minutes or to download a Bible. Whatever those goals might be, we can see how many people are doing that. All right. We can see if you are running Google Ads, how those are doing. We can integrate that right into our analytics. And if you were selling things, you could even see that. All right. So this is that home page that I really love. This is GA3's homepage that you're seeing right here. Here's what it looks like in Google Analytics 4. So broader, a lot more going on this page, but a lot of it is the same. All right, so we're back to the home. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. This is the last 7 days, so it's the same website. Okay, but it counts things a little bit different. So if you're running both GA3 and GA4, you may notice a little bit difference of time. So here it's saying how many users, how many new users in the last 7 days, and then it's saying what's the average time that someone is engaging on your website. This is an interesting thing. Now, let me just stop for a second, too, and say, don't be discouraged if that number is really small for a while, especially with your evangelistic sites, because you'll get people who come to your site and then go, not interested, and leave real quickly. This is the average engagement time. If you were to look at the median engagement time, your timing would probably be a little bit higher. So, looking through this over time, you will notice that this number will probably go up. When you're doing media to movement outreach, Christian media outreach, over time, your average engagement time will probably increase, especially if you're putting good content on your website. So here we go. In the last 30 minutes, 165 people have been on their site, and this is where they've been coming from. But here's something that is machine learning. This is insights, and it's giving you some information here. It's telling you some really interesting stuff. This is how many people organic drove the most conversions last month. So it's telling you a lot about your data, and it's being done through machine learning. So this insights is a really powerful tool. You can also see over here new users by the medium, by where they're coming from. All right. With this insights right here, you can also type right up here in the search bar. So if I wanted to type right here, how many users are coming from France, and I type that in, and then it would say this is how you can go and to get that information, demographics, or by country, until it shows you where to go to get that information. This is all a part of this machine learning, this intelligent insights, all right? And it gives you some of these reports right here. So this is GA4. Here's how many sessions and where they're coming from. Cost per click is the CPC. What countries, how many users. This is set for the last 60 days, but once again, you can just click and you could put it while you're running an ad, say for the last 7 days or during Ramadan or whatever, what's happening on your website. Then you can see activity that they're doing. Same thing here. How many of them are coming back? Then this is events. This is where this gets different in Google Analytics 4 versus Google Analytics 3. We still have the page titles and where people are going the most to. With Google Analytics 4, if you're using an app, it can integrate all of that into this one screen instead of having two separate ones. So that's a really powerful thing. I know some of you are using scripture engagement apps. GA4 is going to be a good tool for you if that's one of the parts of your outreach that you do. Here is some of these events, and we'll dive more into this next week. But I just want you to see, here's a page view, and then user engagement. They did something on your site. Maybe they scrolled, which is down to the bottom 90% of your page. They viewed something. They started to do something. This was their first visit. They clicked on a video. They played. They watched the whole video. All of that can be a part of your event count, these events that you see. And then you can set up goals to set up what you want someone to do. Where you can do that is in this admin section. So coming back to my own over here, if I'm in that and I'm in this area, I could click and go, here's a goal that I would want to set up. And then I could click new goal, and maybe it is that I want to go and media play, or I want to do a custom one. So I could click on it, and then I would name it. And let's say I want to do one where they have spent 5 minutes. So I would name it 5-minute time on site. I would say duration. I'm going to hit continue. I'm going to say greater than 5 minutes, 3, 4, 5. I'm not going to assign a value. And then you could verify it to see how many people have done that. And then I would just hit save. When that's done, all right, and now that's going to show up both whether you do it in GA3 and create it there, or in GA4 and create it once again down in that admin. This is some of these goals are going to show up. All right, so there are some similarities. It looks similar to a degree. There are some things that we'll talk about next week that are there in GA3 that are not there in GA4, and I get that, all right? I think they're going to keep adding functionality to it as we move forward. So what would I recommend for you all? I would recommend that if you're just getting started, that you go ahead and get Google Analytics 4 on your website. All right, go through analytics.google.com and just sign up for it. It's okay if you want to do both. If you already have Google Analytics on your site, you may want to go ahead and get GA4 set up on there as well. So you can begin to be learning and seeing what areas of overlap there are versus which ones are different right now. The key there is we want to set it up so that we can see what people are doing. If our objective is for people to send us a message, then are they going to our website? Are they clicking on that button? Are they downloading a Bible? Are they watching videos? How many pages are they looking at? All of that information is really important to tell us whether or not we are succeeding at our mission to make Jesus famous and using the tools that we have available. All right, so I hope that this is a benefit for you today. If you have questions about it, make sure you reach out. You can send us a message from our Kavanaugh Media site or on our Facebook page or wherever. I would love for you to like this show. If you go over to YouTube, you can like it, subscribe it. We also have the Christian Media Marketing Podcast. It is a short 15-minute or so audio training every week. It gets into the real nitty-gritty of things that are happening right away on that. There's over 4,200 and some people listening to it. I would love for you to be a part of that tribe. And so you can find that on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or other ones that are out there. I'd love your reviews on that as well. And remember this, if we can help you to run some ads, to make Jesus famous, to reach those unreached people groups, then I would love for you to go to KavanaughMedia.com/let's go. All right, and I mean it. Let's go. Let's push. I want to end our time today, and I'm going to do something I've not done in this live training before, but I'm going to pray for you all here in just a minute. And even if you're watching this recorded, I want you to know this is my prayer for you as well. And I'm going to start before the prayer to say, I would love your prayer, because to be very honest with you, it's a little scary. It's not that I don't trust God. It's not that I don't think He's going to do whatever He wants to do with that. I know that. Okay, I get that. I'm just trying to be honest with you all that we're moving into uncharted areas, and I hope I can pull it off. I hope I can lead well. I hope I can be a blessing. I hope I can provide for the people looking to me at Kavanaugh Media to provide that income. I feel it, but I know I'm not alone. So I covet your prayers. I thank you for the encouraging words we get from you all. And I just want to pray with you, and then we'll close. All right. God, I pray that for whoever is watching this show, for whatever teams that are out there that are trying to make your son famous, that you would give them wisdom, that you would protect them from the evil one, that you would help them to play whatever part they can. God, will you unite your church? Can you move us beyond labels and tags to simply be Christians who are working together to try to finish the task? Father, find us faithful. I pray that you will find us working in a spirit of unity because you are one. May you find us with that way as well. God, thank you for giving us these tools that we have for right now. And may we use them. May we just use every bit of that we have to accomplish what you've called us to do. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Thank you all for experimenting, doing everything you can to make Jesus famous. If we can ever help you, please reach out. Next week, Lord willing, we'll jump into the next part of this Google Analytics and to give you some more of those tags that we didn't even dive into today. Real time, a lot of those others. All right. Until then, take care and God bless. Bye.